You're listening to For Change People podcast, the show that shows you how to start choosing you. On today's show, we are joined by the award-winning speaker, podcaster, and author, Dominique Brightmon. Hey, Dom.
How's it going? The amazing A is in the building, baby. The pod building.
Hey, I'm so happy that you're here. I'm so excited to get into this. So how are you doing today?
Doing good. Good with, we'll go with good 7-0. 7's usually a lucky number.
Oh, I love 7. Oh my God, that's my number too. That's crazy. It's my number. Yes, lucky number 7. How has it been since the whole pandemic? I mean, we're still kind of getting out of it, but how has it been for you personally?
Not too bad, to be honest, because after the initial shock where the whole world received a giant face punch from Mike Tyson, metaphorically speaking, like able to get back up surprisingly, because I ain't a punch you're going to get up from. And really actually just amped up a lot of stuff in business for myself. My podcast expanded. Probably had the most guests yet last year of about 137 new authors and then about 5 returning guests. So podcast expanded, got some more money in for business, did some more virtual summits. So it wasn't too bad. Altogether really wasn't too bad. It's like, and plus I'm an introvert too, so I recharged by being alone. Yeah. And I got back into gaming too, so that was a way to do some coping and some time usage as well, for lack of a better word. So it wasn't too bad. Like it wasn't too bad.
It was doable.
Yeah. It could have been a lot worse.
Good. It was good for him. Oh, that's amazing though that you upped your podcasting and your guests. That's awesome. So we're going to get into some rapid questions. So what we're going to do is we're going to do this for 1 minute. I have 20 questions here. And for the 1 minute, I'm going to see how many questions Dom can answer. So let's see how many questions he can answer in that 1 minute. Let me get my timer so that we can get this going. Ready? Yeah?
Oh, yeah, like ready.
All right, let's go. What's at the top of your bucket list?
Visit Japan, especially Kyoto.
Oh, nice. Name 5 places. Oh my God. Name 5 places you want to visit in 2021?
Oh, 2021? That's a hard one. All right, sure. Let's go for it. So, South Carolina, we'll go with the state. Tennessee as well as the state. Heck, maybe even Canada, I guess. I'm not sure where yet, since this is rapid. California? The LA area? Yeah, right. Sure, why not?
Favorite social media platform?
Oh, Twitter. You gotta be witty to survive.
Oh, Lord. I'm not on Twitter. Okay. Sing a line from your favorite song.
I'm just a sexy boy. That's right.
All right. Time. All right. So we got through. Let's see how many. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Oh, not bad. Not bad at all. All right. So we are going to get into the episode for today. And I want you to share with the audience just a little background about yourself and, what you're doing right now.
Yep, sure thing. Well, thanks again, the amazing Anna Kay, for having me on your awesome podcast, helping out the folks who are really doing the thing and trying to get to the entrepreneurial space and really grow like a wonderful tree, giving positive shade in the summer on a hot day. And for those who don't know me, name's Dominique Dom Brightmon, host of the Going North podcast, best-selling author of the book Stay the Course, The Elite Performer, 7 Secret Keys to Sustainable Success, as well as a certified self-leadership trainer with the John Maxwell team who loves to coach, empower, and inspire others to create their immortality, their own piece of immortality. And I'm out in the land of charm, crime, and crabs in Baltimore, Maryland. So, yeah, I love crab cakes, love leadership, especially self-leadership, love reading. Love making folks laugh, indeed. Love talking with people. Hence being a interview-based podcast host who actually interviews authors. And that's just a little bit about me.
That's a full about him. That was a full. Okay. All right, so we have to get into the episode for today, which is the 5 E's of leadership. And you're going to be sharing the 5 E's with us. But before we get into that, I wanted to ask you, what is one of the biggest issues you find that leaders have when it comes on to leadership? When it comes on to directing their team, what's one of the biggest issues you find that they have?
One of the biggest mistakes is thinking that leadership and management are the same exact two things. That's probably the biggest thing, because when folks say management, it's like, oh yeah, leadership. When people say leadership, oh yeah, management, yeah. The difference between leadership and management is, with leadership, people see, people do. People see what you do, they get inspired to do something, whether that's positive or negative, or just to not do anything at all, because if you're a quote-unquote leader and no one's following you, then in the words of the legendary John Maxwell, you're basically taking a walk. As opposed to management, you're basically required to make sure that the system is still running in place and that you're basically meeting certain metrics of the certain system that you're a part of. So leadership can tie into management to make you a better manager, because the thing about leadership, people see, people do. When you're making sure you're your best self possible, when you're performing at your peak level of performance, then that'll make you a better manager who also has great leadership qualities that folks will definitely want to follow, and you'll get that better and bigger buy-in, as opposed to a manager. I'm sure we've all been guilty of seeing bad managers in action. I've heard those bad management stories, especially those in retail, fast food, and all that good stuff, where a young person comes in at a young age, they do everything so well that they come from the sunny days of being a top performer to the moon phase of management, where you're basically doing something totally different, a complete 180. Exactly. You're from performer to manager. Like management, you're responsible for other people. You're like adult daycare, as opposed to the job that you started off in the first place, where not all of those skills are transferable.
Yeah. So that brings me to my question, which, are all followers, going to get to be leaders if you get the direction that I'm going into?
I'd say definitely. Well, everybody can be a leader. I preface it with that. Everybody can be a leader in their own space, especially in their small circle of friends. Because because at the end of the day, it's like sell or be sold. Sometimes we're selling, sometimes we're buying. We're trying to sell our kids on, hey, well, this is why I got to eat your vegetables. Selling our spouse, well, hey, maybe we should go to this dating location, or things like that. And sometimes we have to buy into those ideas so everybody can be a leader. But no, not everybody's going to be a leader at the end of the day, because there's also some folks who are out on an island somewhere praying to a sacred deity and whatnot, and that may be their leader, and they're all just metaphorical drones per se. So yeah. Not everybody's a leader.
I get you. All right, we're gonna
too far out there for you.
We gotta wheel it back in. So, the 5 E's of leadership. Let's get into it. So, what are the 5 E's of leadership?
Sure thing. So, E number 1 is examination. Because especially when it comes to self-leadership, because from the cradle to the grave, we lead ourselves the longest, then we're going to have to do some self-reflection, self-examination to realize, hey, are we doing the things that we really want to do? And really just have to, as you're going on in your journey, making sure that, hey, is this really, are we making progress here? Is this like the sunk cost fallacy, where I'm going so far along into something because I already put so much time, effort, and money into this thing? And just realizing that you're asking yourself, and heck, even your team, questions to making sure that you're doing things right. Heck, even from those from a personal leadership standpoint, I like to recommend the Mirror Force Yourself method, where you basically ask folks that you trust for their honest feedback of 3 things that you do well and 3 things that you need to work on. Because we all have things that we need to work on and things that we can be weak at. And our strengths will surprise us when we ask other people about it, especially if it's a trusted voice, because then we'll know what to home in on. And those weaknesses will be like, okay, let me watch out for this. Some of them, it's like, okay, this might be BS, but don't tell them that. Just be open to hearing it. So examination is definitely number one.
Got to look at yourself, examine, like, I mean, self-examination is definitely important. It doesn't matter what level you're at. You're still going to examine yourself at every single level or stage that you're at in your business, because you want to see, is this the right direction that I need to go at? Is this the right stage I need to get to? So what is number two?
Number two is definitely education. Education. And I'm not just talking about the wonderful college receipts, not talking about those, the degrees, not talking about those. That's great and all, because a lot of folks are going for them, but also just making sure you educate yourself outside of the regular schooling, regular classes. Like podcasts, like this podcast is a great resource for business owners, like YouTube University, as some people call it. Like, there's so much great content, like the Valuetainment channel. That's another good channel for entrepreneurs. Heck, even the Going North podcast for those looking to become authors, and just extra self-confidence. Like, really just educating yourself on like small increment steps, like having a growth mindset, the Kaizen mindset of continuous improvement, because this is a day and age where, especially 2020 showed that your skills that you may have been a master at 20 years ago may not transfer over nowadays. You have to probably keep abreast of things like 6 months. You have to probably stay 6 months ahead of schedule and learn something new, or be aware of something at least 6 months, like every 6 months, because it used to be a lot longer back then as opposed to now. Like cryptocurrency, like there's so many cryptocurrencies out there, like Bitcoin. That was a big thing. I wish I would have hopped in on it when I first heard about it in 2010. And then there was the Dogecoin, where folks like, oh, you gotta buy a Doge, you gotta hold it, and out of nowhere it just decreased in value earlier this week at the time of this recording. So just being aware of what's out there.
Yeah, keeping abreast with everything that's going on and what's taking place. So which supporting skills do you think is most important when it comes on to leadership?
Yes, it's going to be one word that breaks out into multiple skills. So communication is definitely the main skill that leadership possessed, and that breaks into so many different areas, like a mind map or a spider web, because there's body language, being able to read someone's body language. Like if you're communicating on a Zoom meeting, are folks passed out if they have their camera on? Are they dozing off? Heck, even in the days of BC before COVID, like making sure you can read the room. So there's body language, as well as being able to public speaking. Like public speaking is another major thing of leaders. Like this one-on-one conversation, that's also another form of public speaking, because you and I are having a great conversation / interview that folks are going to be hearing for generations to come. So public speaking, being able to communicate your message effectively. Also listening. Listening is a part of communication, because we are basically communicating 24/7. We're either hearing or listening things, or explaining things to other people. So being able to be an active listener who actually listens more than we speak. Like the classic phrase, like, hey, we got 2 ears and 1 mouth. Make sure you use both accordingly. Like, these ears are for listening, because you get to learn things, especially if you may come across those water cooler conversations where folks are speaking so loud and they think they're not being heard when they're not used to folks hearing them, where you're like, okay, all right, so I know my folks don't like this part, so I'll take that part of the meeting and surprise them the next time. And just really using that to your advantage. So definitely communication, and then those 3 that are right under it. Body language, being able to read it and understand it. Public speaking, being able to give a great talk, communicate your message effectively, and also listening. So that way you know what to do and what not to do.
Exactly. And if you are, growing your business and you have clients, it's important for you to listen to their needs. You're not going to help them without knowing what is it that they need or what they want. So you got to listen to your clients, and it's not all about you. I mean, sometimes you got to take yourself away from the space and put your clients there and just listen to them and take care of them. So what is number 3? So what's the third E?
Third E is execution. Execution, getting things done, because it's great to do some examinations, great to do some self-education, but sometimes folks stick in E number 2 with paralysis by analysis. So you have to actually execute. One guy, my buddy William Winfield, a wonderful, good guy, he likes to recommend people, if you're like an entrepreneur, you're in that 9 to 5 trying to get out of it, focus on listening to one podcast and then taking some action from that one podcast. Like if you're going to be reading a bunch of books, it's great. I'm an advocate for because I've done it myself, but also seek to go back and master at least one book and try to do at least 3 things from that book. Like, especially with a wonderful book I recommend people to read, The 21 Qualities of a Leader by John Maxwell. That book is filled with so many great tips for those looking to become leaders or just remind themselves of what a great leader is and taking 3 action steps from it that you can add to your daily life and pick. Maybe focus on like a different podcast a week, a different speaker a week, a different book a week, and then just doing things from that one thing, because that's really how things get done, focusing on one thing at a time, because we can become so scatterbrained and trying to take so much action that we get little to no action done because we spread ourselves too thin. So execution, definitely get things done.
Exactly. And especially when it comes on to this day and age where social media is like showing up what people are doing at the end results, because we're not seeing the back work that they're doing. So we're thinking, hey, because they're doing that, I want to do this, this, and that to see if I can reach at their level. But we're not seeing the work that they have been doing for 5, 6, 7 years before now. We're just seeing this result. We didn't see what they put in before. So indeed, yes, execution. You have to learn how to stick to one thing, master that, and then get to it. So how can leaders deal with delegations within their team?
Yes, delegations within their team. Oh, like what you did there. I was like, oh, thanks. Did I use too many outside references? I forgot our other questions. Abby shook for a second.
No.
Yeah, so for delegation, this is where the communication piece, the listening piece comes into play. When you're listening, keep your ears to the ground, nose to the ground of your team and how they perform. Basically, keeping aware of those high performers on the team. Like with, to be honest, there's, I forget it, like this one, these percentages come to mind. There's the top 20, middle 60, and bottom 20. So the top 20 performers, kind of like the 80-20 rule. The top 20% is responsible for the other 80% of your results. The 20-60-20 is where your top 20% performers, those are the ones you should delegate the work to, because they're the things because they get things done. This middle 60%, those are the folks who are somewhere in the middle. They may not want to advance into the top 20%, or they may like where they currently are, somewhere in the middle. They're just there to do their job, get their paycheck, go home to the kids, which is all well and good. We need people like that. Not everybody needs to be an entrepreneur here. Like, that's the other thing, too.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's hard.
It is. Like, that's the thing. Like, you can listen to Gary Vee and all his wonderful folks, they'd be like, yeah, the grind is real. You could do this. Like, quit your job. It's like, I mean,
not without a plan.
Like, it's really rough. Like,
yeah. I was going to say, and even if you have a plan, it's still hard because you still got to execute that plan, as we said earlier, Mm-hmm. So how are you going to execute the plan if you don't have any skill set in terms of like management, time management, resource? No, you have to make sure that you execute one thing first and then get abreast with that before you move ahead. Yeah. So we're moving on to 4.
Oh, yeah, some golf swag. 4. There you go. A corn cob for the listeners, baby. That's right. Embrace the corniness. It'll change your life.
Oh, Lord. Yes, you got to.
But seriously, though, E number 4, energy. Energy is E number 4, and it's something that's talked about but not mentioned too much in leadership space because most folks don't think about it. Because, like, when it comes to energy, like, you really have to be in your peak performance state, and you have to have at least, and even if you're not in that state, at least be well enough to perform your duties as needed and to encourage other people as needed and inspire other people as needed. You have to make sure you get enough sleep, like at least a good 7 to 9 hours of sleep for the majority of people. Now, there's some crazy people out there who can run on 4 hours, and well, that's just you. You're a genetic freak, and you're freaking awesome. I mean, hey, if you could do it, that's your thing. But yes, 7 hours. At least get those 7 to 9 hours of sleep. Making sure you stay hydrated, especially if you're one of the more further ahead seasoned entrepreneurs because you want to stave off the Alzheimer's and the dementia. Because one of the major causes of dementia, my father suffered from this, is the fact that he wasn't hydrated well enough. He always loved to drink Pepsi Colas and things like that. He drank water every now and then. He would try to drink it, but he didn't have enough of it. And you're going to need more as you age. Like, now, granted, you're going to be going to the bathroom a lot, but staying hydrated will keep your brain healthier because our bodies are made of mostly water. And a clear mind is a healthy mind.
Yeah.
So good sleep, getting the water, diet's also a great thing as well, avoiding the late night snacks, heck, even intermittent fasting's a bonus as well that I recommend because especially on hump days in particular, when that's like my favorite days for fasting because still got the whole day job sort of thing where it's like, oh, I'm energized, like probably like,
You're
especially in the
pumped.
later half of the day.
Yeah.
Like the thing, like nothing like I do a water fast, intermittent fast, like late in the evening, get this extra energy because your body's cleansing itself. Like Mother Nature has you covered. Your body has you covered. Our bodies are built to basically be able to tackle just about any and all diseases that come our way if we treat our
Yes.
bodies right. So always treat your body right so you can have that energy to perform well.
Yeah. You need that energy. You need it. How can a leader fail? We're talking about energy here. How can they fail?
Yeah. The only way a leader fails is if they don't turn their L's into lessons. That's the only way a leader fails. Because failure only exists if you don't get back up from your failure. Like, heck, even I remember Jim Rohn listening to a bunch of his tapes over and over again. He mentions how you should set a goal to become a millionaire for the person that you become. And that once you lose your first million, you'll become a better person. You'll get your millions back and become a better person for it. Because, like a lot of folks who have their wealth, they are usually rags to riches or they had a lower place in life and they got to the higher place and then something crazy happens like it was a bad investment or something, lose their wealth, and then they're able to get it all back, heck, even
Exactly.
sometimes even double fold because they were able to build that mindset and take the lesson learned from that lesson. So there's really no way to fail unless you just stop doing. Like if you just decide to go in a cave and hibernate forever, that's the only way you can fail.
Yeah. And as you said, if you don't learn from your failures, everybody has to go through that trial stage. You go through it, you test something out, you realize, hey, that's not going to work. So let me try something else. And that's how you learn. That's how you grow. And that's how you become the leader that you want to be. So we're down to our fifth E. So what's that fifth E of leadership?
Ah, yes, indeed. The fifth E, to make the thumb happen. That's right. To make the thumb happen. There we go. Thumbs up. There we go. That's right. That's this podcast right here. 8 thumbs up, y'all. Nah, 7 thumbs up. Yeah, lucky 7. The fifth E is encouragement. And not only encouraging other people, but yourself as well. Because, especially as an entrepreneur, you're going to need to encourage yourself. There's going to be days where you're going to need to pat yourself on the back. And those days when you wake up, you'd be like, man, I got to encourage myself to get out of this darn bed because I don't feel like it.
Yeah.
And you got to really remind yourself, like, hey, I have something to contribute to this wonderful planet that we live on. And it's time to make some action happen. So you have to remember to encourage yourself because there's not always going to be fanfare. Folks like to come and swarm you like a beehive for your honey when you're succeeding. And
Yep.
during the, heck, even like you mentioned earlier, like the 5 to 7 years of basically learning and growing, heck, even sometimes maybe some folks may have had to deal with lawsuits and whatnot, like dealing with all that nonsense to get to where they currently are. And you have to encourage yourself along the way. So that's the fifth magical E to put the thumb on it.
Yeah. You definitely have to encourage yourself. I mean, it's all about your mind too, because sometimes, our minds really do affect us. We think, oh, I'm not capable of doing this, or who is taking me serious at this moment? Like, why do I keep putting out this information? Like, and I go back to social media because it's the day and age that we live in. And you go on Facebook and you go on Instagram and you see this person over here with 20 million followers, and you're looking at yourself like, wait, got no followers. But it doesn't matter how many followers they have. Do they have engagement? Do they have people looking at them? Do they have people talking to them? Do they have people communicating with them? So these are the things we have to also pay attention to. So, encourage yourself that, hey, I'm doing something worthwhile and I will get to my followers, or I'll reach to where I need to go when it's my time to get to that place. So the last question that I have for you, If a team is struggling to stay motivated, what steps do you think a leader can use to boost that engagement? So, they're not motivated. How can a leader boost that engagement?
Yep. So since you said engagement, you got to get your whole team engaged in rings, like men and women. Get them all engaged in rings. I'm telling you, that'll increase engagement. Now, granted, you'll probably be bankrupt afterwards, but hey, it'll be okay. Your team will be more engaged. Not but serious.
That's a ring.
I just messing with
I know,
you.
I know.
Yep. Yep, indeed. But no, seriously though, going back to the why is definitely the major thing. Going back to why everyone is there and what we're here for, like especially heck, even in startup cultures too, like knowing your why and then working from there. Some may be there just to do their job and go home. It's like, hey, all right, let's focus on that. Let's see if we can get this to be better for y'all, and just focusing on developing your team,
Yeah,
because really,
exactly.
that's really where the magic happens, when you encourage your people and you help and develop in the areas where they may need development. Also, even going back to listening as well, listening to your team and seeing if there's anything in their personal life that they may be willing to share, because sometimes you the folks you're leading or the folks that you're teamed up with, like they may be going through some personal issues
Yeah.
so far deep into a point where it's starting to show up into their work life, and that will happen. Like that, like heck, even happened with me in my own life. I thought my personal was bad, and I thought it wasn't showing up in my work life, but it actually was in subtle ways that were subtle to me at the time, but weren't so subtle to my boss. And she had to call me in and be like, "Hey, what's up here? You okay?" And basically just had to explain the situation. So basically, knowing your why, developing your team with some leadership skills, something great to help them work on them skills and working to help them get better. And that, even listening to your wonderful team and seeing what's going on, and just having short meetings with people as well. Those short ones, aka short meetings. Don't have those long grandstanding meetings that go for like 5 hours. Don't do
No,
that.
because
That
you're
nobody
falling
likes those
asleep.
meetings.
Exactly. Nobody's paying attention after the first 10, 15 minutes, I'm saying. They're already like, oh, okay, we're out of this. But before you go, let's talk a little bit about your podcast, Going North. So if anyone listening, you can join. If you're an author and you want to share more, definitely do that. But share a little bit more about the podcast.
My pleasure indeed. So, the Going North podcast, tips and techniques to advance yourself, is a wonderful self-improvement podcast where authors share their stories, and they come from various backgrounds. We have folks who are New York Times bestselling authors, all the way to millionaires, multimillionaires, to regular, normal, everyday folks like myself who may have a book and they may not have built that empire yet. And heck, even folks who have regular 9 to 5s and just trying to build a business on their own. It's called Going North, not I've made it up north already. It's all about folks on their journey to their
Yeah.
own personal success to help others realize that success is tangible. So be on the lookout for new episodes Monday and Thursday, and starting in June 2021, new episodes every Monday, Thursday, and Saturday.
Ooh, awesome. And your book is also called Going North, right?
Yes, ma'am. That was my first book, written on a dare, funny enough.
Ooh, so where can we find that book?
Yes. So you can find it on Amazon and anywhere books are sold. If you have a local bookstore and they don't have it, ask them to go ahead and get it in there and buy 5,000 copies of it. Heck, maybe even 50 copies of it. So that way you can keep local businesses up and running, because that Grim Reaper COVID last year took a lot of businesses by the jugular.
Sure did. So definitely head over to Amazon and definitely go get that book, Going North. And also remember his podcast. Listen to it. It's Going North, and you can find it. I'm pretty sure you can find it on all platforms, right? Apple, Spotify, Google Podcasts, wherever you listen to your podcast episodes weekly. Don, thank you so much for joining the podcast. Thank you so much for coming on and for sharing about the 5 E's of leadership. I'm sure someone took something away from it. And, it was such a engaging conversation with you. He got jokes over here. He got jokes. So if you want to hear more, you have to go listen to his podcast to get all the jokes that he has to dish out to us. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate you,
You're,
Anna Kay.
you're welcome.